But Dave, should we eulogize movie theaters at this point?
Yeah. Oh
There
my
was a
god.
great there was a great tweet I saw where someone was like, the year is like 2050, and they're like, when I was 30 years old, I was able to go see as many movies as I want for $10 a month. It's just like it's insane to think of where we were with Movie Pass just a mere 2 years ago and the state of movies right now.
I mean, shit. I'm happy to pay more than the $10 a month for AMC A List,
Mm-hmm.
and I have friends that'll do the same for Regal Unlimited. Problem is that there's no sustained box office, so now there's no new movie releases, and thus no one's going to the movies, and thus movie theaters are closing
Mm-hmm.
while also hemorrhaging money. It's a terrible mess, and at this rate, I don't think anyone expects any major film to release for the end of the year. There's no reason to believe that. Wonder Woman 1984 and Soul, the Pixar film, are both still dated, as well as Death on the Nile, but those are going to move. There's no doubt about that. And that means that what? You got to wait till like February for something, you know? What happens to those movie theaters in the meantime? We already know that Cineworld is closing all their locations this week, which includes all the Regal cinemas here in the US. So it's bleak and honestly really disappointing, because if you don't have movie theaters to make theatrical grosses happen, then you don't get these big blockbusters that people like because you can't justify their costs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's been some lobbyist comments from the theater groups and stuff pointing blame, blah, blah, blah. Notions that studios should release movies even if they won't make a profit just to keep the viability of the business going. And it's like, it's really messy. And I just hope that the whole model of going to the movie theater can survive in some form, But even if the major chains are able to survive when big movies return to the public, a lot of independent chains and smaller theaters will never open again.
Yep.
It's terrible.
I know. I was thinking about a movie theater near me. It's a Greenberg. Oh man, I can't remember what the theater type is, but it's where I go to see all like the artsy films that we talk about on here. Small movie releases for the most part, and I can't imagine that they're going to be able to survive. That they're ever going to be opening their doors after this. It's sad because when you think about it, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of years, how movies are increasingly going in one or two directions, either really small budget artsy films or the really big budget blockbuster films, and the middle class is kind of dying out. And it feels like that divide is going to be made even larger by the fact that the small budget ones most likely will end up being movies that probably go to on demand a lot faster, and the only thing movie theaters will be showing probably when they open back up are just going to be big blockbusters that they know will get people in the door right away. So it just feels like the the division in terms of movies that are made is just going to grow increasingly larger. Perhaps we'll start to see some more things like Amazon Studios, Apple, Netflix continuing to make these smaller movies or picking up that middle tier. That's always a possibility, but we've also talked about the issue of the streaming services being the ones who are propelling the movies out there, and the theater experience that comes with that. Amazon has been considering, or has been buying movie theaters in order to put their movies out. But I just feel like the further we get away from the way things have been, the more it feels like these changes may not actually benefit movie goers in the long run. So just it's very sad. And wear masks, man. Like people that aren't taking COVID seriously at this point, things aren't gonna just turn around because you want them to. Like we need a big societal shift in that. Any last thoughts before we move on?
Well, and it's interesting too to see, like, you look elsewhere in the world, the Chinese box office is back to full strength, and there's a lot of locally made movies that have putting up huge numbers. The highest grossing film of the year is now The 800, a Chinese war epic, and elsewhere, like in Europe, that society over there is ready to get new movies, but those theaters are now also going to take the hit because of what's happened in North America, and thus is leading all the Western releases to get delayed. So it's a big mess, and you know,
Big mess.
it's yeah, I just hope it can survive in some fashion because, like, as you were saying, like if you're someone who likes to go to the movies a lot, um, that might become a tougher prospect
Hmm.
and a more expensive one, and that's unfortunate because it seemed like the tide was going the other direction in that not too long ago, you know. But now, if you
Yeah.
have to pay for a lot more rentals, it's going to add up a lot faster, I think, than buying a few tickets or having a theater subscription. So we'll see.
Streaming wars might become a lot more interesting moving forward. So we'll see, and we'll be talking about it. So stay subscribed. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe, or SoundCloud.com to follow the podcast any way you want to.